RESIN Kits, and welcome to my very first top 5. This is a practical top 5. This is the top 5 things that you should know about resin kits, because a lot of the time, as you well know, I'm always telling you guys there's a lot of good third-party companies out there, but almost each and every one of them, in fact all of them, use resin. Yeah, all of them use resin. There's a few that use the old metal. I don't think there are any that run in plastic. It's only Games Workshop that actually run in the plastic. So, other than other companies, you know, like tanks and aircraft and stuff like that, Airfix and all that sort of stuff. But you know what I mean, right? So we're focusing now, and I'm focusing now on resin, all right? So 5 things about resin, and maybe there's a bonus, who knows? They always do that, don't they? Everyone always does 6. They say 5, they do 6. I don't get it. Should call it 6 things about resin. Enjoy.
Get yourself a bowl of warm water and some washing up liquid or some similar cleaner. I've got both in here. Also have yourself a bowl of cold water just beside. Now this warm water isn't too warm, you don't want to bend things, and just use a scrubbing brush and just scrub off that horrible slick feeling, shiny, slippery mold release spray that these items often have. So just give them a good little scrub. Be careful you don't damage any details, and then just drop them into the cold water there for a rinse off. Now the thing is this water will soon lose its bubbles. It will soon start to go a bit funky. You'll see a shiny shimmer on the top, and that's all the crap. So basically you're gonna come to a point where you're gonna want to replace this water. So look at it, I mean it's pretty rank. So yeah.
So, when it comes to cutting, do not use your knackered old cutters that you use for metal and such like, because they're all jagged and knackered like that. Use your best ones, use your finest ones, use your ones that are nice and crisp, right? Because it's important, because the resin is usually fairly soft. It can be brittle too. So here we've got 2 examples, right? This is a softer resin, I'm fairly sure. So you just let me make sure I don't cut my fingers off because I can't see what I'm doing. Right, so when you're cutting with these resin kits, when you're removing them from sprue, these would be fairly easy to get flush. But sometimes bodies and things like that have a much larger channel that connects it to the resin block from where it was poured. And in those circumstances particularly, go a bit further down. So cut further down like there. Okay, so then we've removed it. Then you can work on cutting them further to the model. Okay, so you don't want to go straight in on the edge like you might on a GW sprue. Take your time. Now these can vary. Like these are fairly soft, these ones. The Cromlech resin is also fairly soft, but again, if you've got a bigger chunkier bit like a body, then you'll find that you'll need to cut it much further down, and it will make a much more of a sort of brittle sort of snap. See, so sometimes these are, see that, a bit snappy, so sometimes they're under a bit of tension too. It shouldn't be the case with these, and to be honest, like some companies like Cromlech have really come a long way with how they put things on sprues and things like this, and a lot of companies don't even put things on sprue, so you don't have to cut things out per se. It's more a case that they'll come in bits and then you've got to put them together. The third thing that we're going to discuss is flashing. So as you can see, these are some new heads that I've just received, some freebooter heads from Max Mini, some pirates. You see this on the top of the hat there? That's what we call flashing, right? And there's also some just around this guy's face. See here? That's flash. You can tell because it's quite often a lot thinner than it should be, and it just follows the rim, the details around. So how do you go about removing flash? Very, very carefully with a very sharp knife with a nice new blade on it. And you just trace around the edges and you're just literally just going around. I'll just show you with this dude here. So where is our flash there? So I'm actually doing this through the camera lens rather than actually at with my eye, but this is all you're doing, is you're just very, very gently, you get your knife underneath that bit there, pop that away. Oh my god, you wouldn't believe how difficult this is with doing it through a camera lens. Excuse my dirty fingers, I've been green stuffing, as you can probably tell. But yes, basically you're going to run around and you're going to take off all the bits of flash with your knife. There's a bit of flash on his face there. And then once you've tidied it all up, you'll be able to get in and fix any details. But yeah, flash is something you're going to see more so on some models than others. You know, it's just the way it is. This one also has been cut off at the chin here, so the connection from the sprue, see that he's lost a bit of his shape there. This is something else. This is a bonus. This is a unexpected bonus fact that resin, like I was saying, often snaps and you often end up with a bit of a shape you don't like. So green stuff is going to come in handy always. And that leads me on to our next interesting fact about resin. And that would be cavities. So you see here where I've green stuffed on this plate, on this rather lovely Cromlech miniature. This is because that bit had blown out. So basically that detail hadn't formed properly and hadn't filled with resin. So it was hollow, so I had to fill it in. And also, if you can see just inside there, there's a little bit of the blue rubber from inside of their mould. So that's something I didn't even spot myself before, so I'm going to have to get in there with a little sharp knife and get that bit of blue out of there. That doesn't belong. A little bit of their mould, so their mould is obviously perishing. That's that little bit. Another example here is where this bolt had blown out, didn't have any, it had also gone hollow and it had also gone weak around the sides. So if I'd have left that, it would have broken off eventually. It just would have taken somebody's finger to rub over it or something, or even a paintbrush, a bit rough with dry brush, and it would have broken it. So yeah, that's something to also look out for, is cavities in your green stuff. You're going to need to just, in your green stuff, in your resin, and you're going to need to fill it in with some green stuff, and you might need to do it in a couple of layers. So like this tooth here was also blown out, so I'm just building it up. Sorry to pick on Cromlech stuff, it's just I'm working on it at the moment. This is something that will happen with a lot of different resin kits, you know, it's just par for the course. I will say, actually, though, that I haven't noticed any of it at all. No blowouts. I've got to say, the finest resin so far, actually, I've found would have to be from RTLW. You know, there isn't actually any blowouts at all. Yeah, there was very little cleanup to do. Definitely needed the wash, though, but, you know, all resin kits, I believe, need that wash, regardless of whether the manufacturer says, no, I don't use mould release spray, blah, 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 still wash them. So, yeah, there's a few also like little gaps that you're going to get when you're putting kits together. See, so these wires are supposed to join up at the back of these legs. So sometimes they just don't quite very well. So you're going to have to fill in with a bit of green stuff. So there's a little bit more work involved than there would be with a standard GW kit. So they are not for the beginner. They are for the more advanced modeler, I suppose. But you don't have to be a bloody, you know, you don't have to be a genius at it or anything. It's really not. It's quite forgiving. All right, okay. So let's move on to our last, or shall I say last? Let's move on to number 5 in this fact series. Now, number 5, I'm titling Shattered Dreams. Some of you may remember I made this tank for a competition with Scania. It dropped on the floor, and some of it was made of resin. This bit. And this is what I mean by Shattered Dreams. You can spend a lot of time building a miniature, and thankfully I didn't finish painting this miniature, but you can spend a lot of time building and painting miniatures and then drop them, or someone else drop them, or someone knock them off the gaming table, and then you're going to have the heartache of shattered resin. Okay, and it's just a fact. You can't deal with it. Nothing much you can do. It's going to happen, maybe, if you're not careful. I'm always careful, but it still happens. So, yeah, just be prepared to do a bit of repair every now and again. Hurrah! It is bonus fact time, and my bonus fact for today is heat bending resin. So this is, as you may be able to tell, steamy water, and that is some resin that we're going to demonstrate with. So you leave your resin in the water for only a few moments, depending on how soft you really want it to go, but if you leave it in there for too long, it's really going to go very, very soft, and it'll be hard to form back into any kind of reasonable straight shape. But yeah, it's been in there for a little while. Let's put it out. So now it's easy to just do a bit of easy bending. See? Now this would otherwise shatter. If you put that pressure on beforehand, it would have shattered. And it cools very quick. So already it's cooling and it's springing back. So if I hold it there, I'll be able to hold that form. As it cools, it will stay. Okay? So now if I was to let that cool in that position and then I was to drop it back in again, I'll be able to bend it further, you know, and I'll be able to do more. So just keep playing around with resin. It is fairly malleable as long as you keep it hot. And clean water is the best way to do that. Don't mess about like, I know I've heard people saying about the older heated sand method. That's great for GW plastic. It is probably the best method for GW plastic that I've found, but for resin, don't need to bother. Hot water does the trick. So much easier. Just boil a kettle, mate. So there you go. Just a nice little trick. So if you've got any misshapen bits and stuff like that you need to fix, hot water. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed these tips. See you in the next one.